Good evening and welcome everyone to the April 11th, 2022 meeting of the Planning Board for the Town of Chatham. My name is Catherine Halpern. I'm Chair of the Planning Board for the Town of Chatham. Tonight's meeting is being conducted by remote participation only, and in a few moments I'll read you a few points about that. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. And I do need to ask if anyone else is recording the meeting. It is all right to record the meeting, but you do need to notify us. I'll give you a few moments in case you're muted. So we'll continue. This meeting of the Chatham Planning Board is being conducted via remote participation only in accordance with Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 and shall afford adequate alternative means of public access via Microsoft Teams or by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410. That's 1-508-945-4410, and the conference ID number is 675-242-021#. That's 675-242-021#. And as I mentioned, you can also join the meeting online using Microsoft Teams through the link that is in the agenda that is posted on the town website. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access. And as I mentioned, we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. And in accordance with town policy, the public can speak to any issue or business item on the agenda during the meeting when recognized by the chair. A few additional procedural points for our remote participation. We'll start with a roll call of all the board members. If you are recognized by the chair and you are not a board member, but a member of the public, please repeat your name before you begin speaking. And also, if you're connected by phone, please repeat the last 4 digits of your phone number. We want to be able to clearly identify all speakers during the meeting. And after an agenda item has been discussed by the planning board, I will request if there are any citizens connected, any non-board members who would like to make comments or ask questions. And of course, you can speak when recognized by the chair. I will ask that anyone who is not speaking, could you kindly mute your microphones and also disable your video if you're connected by Microsoft Teams. With the exception of planning board members, please mute your microphones, but leave your videos on. Leave your cameras on. Also tonight, all votes are taken by roll call, and at the end of the meeting, we'll close with a verbal confirmation of adjournment, and we'll note the time of adjournment. So let's start with our roll call. Art Sprue, are you present? Art, I think you're muted.
Present.
Okay.
Art Sprue present.
Thanks, Art. And Warren Chain, are you present?
Warren Chain present.
And Bob Dubus, are you present?
Bob Dubus present.
And Bob Wirtschafter, are you present?
Bob Wirtschafter present.
And this is Catherine Halpern. I'm also present. Roger Griffin is not able to join us tonight, and Tom Gagan is not able to join us tonight, but we do have more than a quorum, so we can proceed. And before we begin, I'll also ask if any board members need to recuse themselves from any items on tonight's agenda. All right. There being
Madam Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Dubus.
Are we going to hear, my paperwork was a little disheveled because I've missed so many meetings, and I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
Are we going to hear on Main Street the change of use from a store to a hairdresser tonight?
As I understand it, the applicant has requested a continuance to May 23rd. Is that correct, Ally?
Yeah, yes, that is correct, Catherine.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do not have to recuse myself then.
Yeah. Okay, great. So let's go to our first item on the agenda, which is the minutes for the March 28th meeting. Does any board member have any correction or addition to the minutes? If there are none, could I have a motion to approve the minutes as drafted?
I move that we accept the minutes.
Thank you. Could I have a second?
Warren Chain, I second that motion.
Thank you. We'll do a roll call vote. Art Spru,
Art Sprue, approve.
Warren Chain,
Warren Chain, approve.
Bob Dubus? Or
Bob Dubus
Bob Dubus, you were
abstains.
absent, so you abstained, sorry. And Bob Wirtschafter?
I approve.
Thank you. And this is Catherine Halpern. I also approve. All right. Next item on the agenda, we have a formal site plan review for 70 Queen Anne Road. And this is for the town of Chatham with Dr. Robert Duncanson. And this is for a proposed installation of the pump station. And I see Dr. Duncanson is connected. Did you want to present for this project?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I can quickly provide the committee an overview. I'm sure you're all familiar. We have an existing pump station in the intersection of the Chatham Village Market CVS complex, right on the corner of Oyster Pond Furlong and Queen Anne Road. Yep, I see the little hand is there right now. That pump station was originally built in the 1969-1970 timeframe. It is due for an upgrade to today's technology, as well as an increase in capacity to, as we sewer more areas of the town, there will be more wastewater flow coming into this pump station. And then from here, it's pumped down to the larger Stage Harbor Road pump station, which is in the parking lot behind the Orpheum Theater. And then from there, the wastewater gets pumped all the way down Route 28 to the wastewater treatment plant. So working with our engineers, we've been evaluating options for upgrading this pump station. As you can see, it's on an existing postage stamp size parcel. Our original intent was to work with the owners of the Chatham Village Market CVS property, which is Bromley Realty Trust, to get an easement for basically those 3 parking spaces that are hashed in the corner there, to allow us to expand the site that we had to work with. But more importantly, obviously, because it's connected to the existing wastewater collection system, we needed to keep the existing pump station in operation while we built the new one. Unfortunately, in discussions with the folks that own the CVS CVM site, they were not able to grant us the easement on those parking spaces because basically their parking spaces are already tied up in planning board regulations as well as in leases with their tenants. So we started looking around for other potential locations and noticed right across the street on the 70 Queen Anne Road parcel, which is the parcel where the Queen Anne Inn is located, that portion of the property right adjacent to Oyster Pond Furlong was not used. And so working with our engineers, we have basically relocated the new pump station to that site. I have had conversations with the folks at the Queen Anne Inn. They are willing to grant the town an easement for the pump station. I have also had conversations with the Chatham Conservation Foundation, which basically owns the property to the south, or looking at the screen to the left-hand side. And they have a restriction on this portion of the Queen Anne Inn property. But we've been working with them in town council. We've drafted up a partial release of that restriction. It is not a full conservation restriction, which would involve the state and other parties. It's only basically a private restriction between the foundation and the Queen Anne Inn ownership. So we've been working through all those legal issues. We've designed this pump station basically to minimize the footprint. And you can see the heavy black line is basically a retaining wall, so that the area where the pump station will be located is level, because you can tell from the topo lines, it does gradually drop off towards a wetland area, basically in the lower left corner of the picture there, the plan there. So there'll be that retaining wall to give us a flat area. The pump station itself is basically that round circle that you see there. That is the wet well into which the sewage will flow by gravity. It's basically a 12-foot diameter concrete structure about 25 feet deep into which the wastewater flows. And then on top of that, that square box is basically the pumps. So the pumps are up above. There is no building at this site. Basically, everything is outdoors, very similar to the existing pump station across the street. So the pumps are housed in that small, what we call, for want of a better term, a dog house, which is basically a 6 by 6 by 6 foot tall, roughly fiberglass structure with all the pumps and whatnot inside. Then to the left of that, the rectangular area, that is the emergency generator. And then basically just above the wet well area, there is an electrical panel which houses all the controls and whatnot, mounted on a stainless steel stand on a concrete footing, foundation, if you will. And all the, with the exception of really the electrical panels, the green doghouse, and the emergency generator, everything else is below ground. You'll see there's a couple of different configurations for the influent line coming in from, so basically we're going to retain the existing wet well across the street. We'll demolish everything that's above ground there, the generator and the controls and all. But to minimize the amount, because it's such a heavily traveled area with underground utilities, as you can see on Queen Anne Road, there's already existing gravity sewer, there's sewer force mains, there's gas mains, there's water mains. So rather than disturb any of that, we're basically going to keep the existing wastewater flowing into the existing wet well, and then put a new pipe from that that wet well across the street to the new wet well. And we're showing two different configurations on this plan because there is a large tree, which is basically that grade area, that little circle right there. There is a large tree there that the Conservation Commission has asked that we consider retaining because they thought it was a large sycamore tree. It is not a sycamore. It is actually a London plane tree. We've had a horticulturist come in and take a look at that. It's too large to move. That was one of the options they asked us to consider. It would cost in excess of $100,000 to move that tree. In addition, because it's a London plane tree, they have very aggressive root systems. So even if we leave the tree there, we were concerned about all the underground piping being affected in the future by the roots of that tree. So our recommendation to the Conservation Commission when we go back to them on Wednesday is to remove that tree, and then we will plant an appropriate tree as a replacement elsewhere on the site. And you can see here, and this is not the most recent landscaping plan. There is a more updated one. I don't know if Ali, if you've got that. Okay, yeah, the plan that you just showed was the more updated landscaping plan. And you can see we've got a screen along the Queen Anne Road side. And I did have conversations with the engineers last week that we're not going to plant them exactly in a straight row like that. We'll offset them a little bit so that they look a little bit more natural when you drive along the road. But the primary goal is to screen the pump station as you come up Queen Anne Road or go down Queen Anne Road. And then we have another of other plantings on the opposite side around the retaining wall to kind of mimic some of the vegetation that currently exists on the site, much of which is invasive. So removing some of that vegetation will not necessarily be a bad thing. Everything that we're planting is native, low maintenance, low fertilizer, low watering needs. And then the other major site item is that kind of not hash marked, but all the small squares, that is a porous pavement, or not a porous pavement, but paving blocks to provide an area for a pull-off. The station is basically visited once a day by someone from the sewer department. Even though these stations are fully automated and alarmed, DEP regulations still require that somebody physically visit the site every day. And so this would provide a pull-off for them, as well as if we needed to get a large truck in to do any maintenance on, say, the generator or the wet well or any other equipment, they'd be able to pull off the street and not be blocking any of Oyster Pond Furlong, recognizing that we are right there at the intersection. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. So Art Sprue, do you have comments or questions for Dr. Duncanson?
No real questions or anything. The pump station that Dr. Duncanson references, we have one in my neighborhood. They're very effective. The single pull-off works very well. So I see no issues. I have no other comments on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. And Warren?
This is Warren Chain. Bob, thanks for the presentation. I'm no engineer, so I'm not going to comment on the design of the thing, but just a couple of questions with respect to the landscape plan. Is it the case that the red cedars that are shown as in a line but won't be, is there any possibility that they're going to restrict visibility around the corner into the furlong?
We did talk about that last week during our meeting with the engineers. And once the larger tree comes out, our plan was to kind of take those last couple on the end closest to the furlong there and kind of bend them around a little bit so they follow more the curvature of the sidewalk and all, so that we do maintain the appropriate sight distance when you come to that stop sign.
I did notice too that the heights of the various plantings that you've selected in the landscape plan are modest, which is good. The question I'd have then would be, will there be security lighting, or is there going to be a street light right on the corner here to light the facility?
There is no site lighting proposed. We don't have any site lighting at the pump station across the street. And right now there is a new utility pole planned. So it's closer, but we're not planning any street light or anything like that. So it would just be the existing lighting that's already there in the intersection.
Okay, I mean, it's not a dark area, but across the street in the village market, of course, you have lights in the parking lot.
Yep.
So I didn't see lights in the plan, so they're not needed. So that's good. The Queen Anne Inn, will you be able to see this facility from the elevation of the Queen Anne Inn?
There is actually a fair amount of vegetation existing as you get closer up towards the Queen Anne Inn, where their parking lots and all are. And so I don't think you'll see much of anything. That was the reason for some of the plantings that we have basically, on the side that basically you'd be looking at from the Queen Anne Inn. But we've been working with them, and if we have to supplement the plantings, after they have a chance to review the landscape plan. They've already seen it once. They haven't seen this most recent iteration. We will certainly supplement with more plantings if necessary, or bigger ones if they feel, those say 4 that are right down on the end there need to be a larger size plantings, to provide a better screen from the end.
Thank you, Bob. One final question. The pull-off area that is shown as the blocks with spaces in them. Sometimes those spaces are filled with grass, sometimes they're filled with gravel. What is the plan here?
The intent here is they would be filled with topsoil and then grass.
Okay. And that's it. I've got no problems with it. No other questions. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Warren. How about Bob Dubus? Would you like to have any comments or questions?
Yeah, Bob Lewis. Hi, Bob. I think you guys have been long overdue for this pumping station, and I think you've done an appropriate search and destroy to find a place that's adequate. And I hope, Bob, this is adequate for the future, correct?
Yes.
So then if it's adequate for the future, and I'd rather build it to 150% capacity than to 99% capacity to make sure that it is, that I think you've done a good job. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. And Bob Wirtschafter?
Catherine, I have nothing more to add. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. This is Catherine. I agree. I think everything looks really good. Thank you, Dr. Bob. And it's a shame about the London plane tree, but I don't see any way around it. And everything else looks very good. So thank you so much. Any other comments from your side, Dr. Bob? I'll ask if there's any public comments or questions before we go to vote.
No, I'm good.
Okay, great. And anyone from the public who's connected who would like to comment or ask questions? So with that being said, I think, again, Ali's done a great job, and we can have a vote to approve the formal site plan for this project with the two conditions that are standard conditions that Ali notes on the her staff report. Number one, the physical features and data shown on site plan dated such and such, entitled Pump Station Proposed Site Plan, represent the approved design and parking layout of the subject property. Any deviation, and I'm kind of summarizing here, constitutes a violation of planning board approval unless it's reviewed and approved by the planning board. And point two, again, our standard certification by a licensed professional that all site work is completed in compliance with the approved plan is required prior to issuance of the certificate of use and occupancy by the building commissioner. So if there's no other comments, could I have a motion to approve the formal site plan as submitted with the conditions as noted, which are our standard conditions?
Bob Dubus moved to approve the site plan with conditions as submitted.
Thank you. And a second?
Bob Wirtschafter, seconds.
Thank you. So we'll do a roll call vote. Art Spru,
Art Spru, approve.
Warren Chain,
Warren Chain, approve.
Bob Dubus,
Bob Dubus approve.
Bob Wirtschafter,
Bob Wirtschafter, approve.
and this is Catherine Halpern. I also approve. Thank you, Bob, for your presentation. Thank you so much. Yes. Next item on the agenda is 160 Mill Hill Road. And we have, this is a continuation from the March 28th meeting. We asked for some additional information from Weston and Sampson, and this is regarding the construction of a water treatment facility. And they have provided some information, and I see Leah is connected. Would you like to present your responses?
Sure, that would be great. So this is where the proposed well pump station is going, just to kind of recap for people. This is wells 10 and 11, which are not yet built. The wells are at the ends of the little, at the ends of the road, and then there's a treatment facility that will do chemical injection to treat the water to go out to the distribution system. So when we were here on the 28th, there was a good amount of concern about stormwater. And how would you like me to do this? Do you want me to walk through, and we provided responses. Do you want me to walk through them?
You know, what you might like to do is, yes, walk through them, but maybe you could summarize a bit since we have the full response in writing. If you'd like to, that would be fine, but I think it's good to just review them.
Okay,
the board
that sounds good. And do you, oh, look, Ali, you're like a ninja here.
Isn't she?
We did make some modifications to the plans, and we can share them if that makes it easy for the board, but we'll just walk through what Ally has up on the screen. So there was a good amount of talk about runoff and managing stormwater on the site. We feel pretty strongly that the material on the site is very sandy. We included some of the boring information that went along with it. We have removed all the gutters on the building, so there are no point sources. We've added the gravel around the crushed stone around the perimeter of the building. And to take all of the runoff from the roof, we have no stormwater facilities on the site. There are no linear assets. There are no catch basins. There are no infiltration basins. There are no pipes. There's nothing. The intent is to manage all the stormwater on the site with what we've done. We did ditches on the side of the gravel access road. We've minimized the area of pavement and impervious surface area. This plant actually mimics and is quite similar to the plant we put out on Morton Road. It's actually much smaller. But we handled stormwater the same way on that site, and we're able to get infiltration of all of our water on site. That is, I think, Ally, that was the primary comment. That's the response to comment 1, which was the largest one. There was some concern about water heading into the little pond. We have added a rain garden at the bottom of that slope to mitigate any runoff that would come down the gravel road and head that way. We've added, there was some concern about guardrails, which comment, it's a comment 4, Ally. So we've added guardrails to the steep slope of that access drive. And then the other concern, which was comment 3, was about the use of salt for de-icing, and we've confirmed with the operators and Public Works that they do not use any de-icing agents on any of their access drives for these well stations.
Okay, good. All right, good. So let's go through again, if the board has questions or comments. So Arthur, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to commend the applicant for addressing many of the comments that I had made at the previous meeting. I think the rain garden at the low point of the road is going to be real helpful. Guardrails where it's appropriate based on the slopes. So thank you for that. The only thing I would ask is for purposes of our files, if as part of the conditions is to ask that the applicant submit their design calculations for the stormwater, and so that we can have them for our file. That's all I have, Catherine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Arthur. Yes, this is Catherine. I'll just, it is something we require, and according to our bylaw, we do need to have those specifications on file. So I think including it as a condition would be a good idea. So Warren Chain, do you have comments or questions for Leah Stanton?
I too would like to commend the applicants on addressing, I think, very correctly and forcefully and clearly the comments for the board at the last meeting. I have no real substantive comments other than to say that I expect there will be a revised set of site plan drawings that reflect all of the changes, since they were not really part of our package here, but would be as far as the building permit process, I assume. Just like to confirm that, that's all. No other comments.
Okay, thank you, Warren. And how about Bob Dubus? You weren't here for the other meetings on this matter, but
Bob Dubus has done a little homework in there.
yeah,
And finds that this is a duly necessary evil to this community, that we make sure that these two wells get online and get online properly and are well taken care of. And it looks to me like you've done a good job at that.
thanks, Bob. And Bob Wirtschafter?
Everything looks good to me. Thank you, Catherine.
All right, great. And I think I've just made the comment, let's include those stormwater specifications as part of the file. We do need those for our files. I'm going to ask if there's any comments from the public. If anyone's connected, any questions or comments before we go to vote on this matter? I don't see any hands raised. So let's go ahead to vote. And what I would suggest to the board is that we vote to approve this project with the conditions that Ally has included, which again are our standard conditions. She also included the standard condition about any exterior lighting being downcast. And could we add as a condition that the stormwater calculations are included in the file as requested? And this also is something standard that we ask for. So may I have a motion to approve this site plan with conditions as noted?
Art Spru, I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second to that motion?
Bob Dubus will second it.
Thank you. So let's do a roll call vote. Art Spru,
Art Spru, approve.
Warren Chain,
Warren Chain, approve.
Bob Dubus,
Bob Dubus approve.
Bob Wirtschafter,
Bob Wirtschafter, approve.
and this is Catherine Halpern. I also approve and thank you. We do appreciate your coming back and providing the additional information. And I just want to echo what Bob Dubus said. It's something necessary for our town, and we're very happy that it's getting done. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is 1218 Main Street. And this was continued again from March 28th. And yes, oh, I'm sorry, continued from March 14th. And this is for a proposed change of use from a retail market to a hair salon. I understand from Ally that the applicant has requested that we continue this matter until our May 23rd meeting. We have requested a fully engineered site plan from them, which includes information on stormwater and drainage that they did not have just as yet. So they've requested a continuance until May 23rd. So may I have a motion to approve that we continue this matter until May 23rd?
Warren Chain, so moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Bob Wirtschafter.
Art Spru, second.
Okay. So let's do our roll call vote. Art Spru,
Art Spru, approve.
Warren Chain,
Warren Chain, approve.
Bob Wirtschafter,
Bob Wirtschafter, approve.
and this is Catherine Halpern. I also approve. Bob Dubus, you don't, maybe this is a gray area, but since you would,
I have to abstain from this because I'm working for them.
okay, I think that's good. All right. So, but we do have enough, we do have a quorum, so we will continue this matter until May 23rd. So now we have a few recommendations to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And the first is for 70 Queen Anne Road. And this is for the item that we just reviewed with Dr. Duncanson. So I'm going to suggest that we send a positive recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Unless there's any discussion or further comments, could I have a motion to that effect?
I move that we send that recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
All right, could I have a second to that?
That
motion?
would be a positive one, and I'll second it.
Yes, a positive one. Great. So let's do a roll call vote. Art Spru,
Art Sprue, approve.
Warren Chain,
Warren Chain, approve.
Bob Dubus,
Bob Dubus, approve.
Bob Wirtschafter,
Bob Wirtschafter, approve.
and this is Catherine Halpern. I approve. So we will send a positive recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals regarding 70 Queen Anne Road. And now we do have another request for a recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals regarding 146 Strong Island Road. And do I have someone connected who will be presenting? Is Bill Riley connected? I don't see any hands raised. I don't see that Mr. Riley is connected. Ally?
Madam Chairman, this is Bob Dubus.
Yes?
I've reviewed this. Is this the first time you've seen this plan?
It's mentioned in the notes that we did see this before, I believe.
I just want to say, and I hope the board agrees with me, that this is one of the hardest plans to decipher, because you look at the driveways,
Yeah.
there's no existing driveway, proposed driveway, where it is, how much are we making this driveway bigger, where is this and where is that? This plan, I'm sorry, does not have enough detail in for us to make a wise decision upon without being deciphered. It's a very, very hard plan. And am I the only one in the board that finds it that way?
Just
No,
hard to read. Yeah,
It's very hard to read. I think I know what they're doing, but it's very hard to read.
yes. And we did see this. It did come before us before at our February 14th meeting, and we sent a negative recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And as Ally notes, it's the applicant has revised their application.
Well, Madam Chairman,
Yes.
if they would come and explain this to us, it might be better. But I really cannot accept this plan the way it is. There's not enough detail, and I'm not looking for major detail. I'm looking for what, here is what's here. Here is what we want to propose. Both plans are very hard to deal with. So I'm sorry that I really would postpone this to another meeting because the plan's so hard to read.
All right. Okay, and I see Art Spru has hand raised. Do you want to go ahead, Art?
Yes, this is the second time we've seen this. I believe the previous one was a much larger driveway that they were putting in, and they were gonna like put a curb or a loop on it. And it was actually increasing the amount of impervious area, and they were raising the grade.
Right.
I agree with you, Bob, that it's difficult to read this, but I think I was able to decipher what they've done different. They've lowered the garage elevation to meet the existing grade. They've just made a straight turn in from Strong Island Road, and they've kept all of the surface at the same elevation as the existing. So they have, as far as I can tell, only because I looked at the previous plan and I was able to decipher the two. I understand your concerns on that, and if the board wants to do that, that's fine. But I believe that there has been a drastic improvement in what they're showing here versus what was previously submitted.
Bob Dubus,
Yes,
if you can
go ahead.
decipher this for us all to read, then I will take your word for it. Please explain it the way you, and I understand this was brought before the board before with a circular drive in it. And I have no problem with what they're doing. I just can't see the explanation of what they've added and subtracted from it.
Right, and maybe if Ally blows up each one of these separately, I can sort of explain what I observed, okay? And Ally, do the existing one first and really blow it up and zero in on the driveway, okay? All right, so the driveway that comes off Strong Island Road, it heads all the way and at 90 degrees in, okay? That elevation there was at 9+00 at the slab elevation. So, and all the grades are about elevation, not just under 9, 8, 7, 8, 8. All right. Now, if you scroll over to that driveway is being removed and the 90-degree turn is being removed. Now, if you scroll over to the proposed one, Ally. Yeah, keep the large scale. That's good. All right. And just move it up a little bit. The other way. Yeah, that's good. Now you see the driveway is coming right in. They have a spot grade of 9.3 in the middle there. The proposed grade of the slab was 9.5. That was in the neighborhood of about 11.5 or 12 before. And the grade was being raised and it was some fill that was included in there. So they've gotten rid of the 90-degree turn. It's a straight in, and they've gotten rid of the turn around through. So when I blew all of this up and I tried to compare it with the previous one, I saw the significant improvements. I think Ally in her comments put in what the reduction is in the impervious area, which was significant. So if that helps in your explanation and you're willing to proceed with this, I'm fine. If the board would rather do something different, that's fine too.
Excuse me,
Thanks,
this is Bob Dubus again. I don't want to step on your toes, Ally, but now they mentioned a second driveway to this proposal. Is that true?
A second driveway. Ally, you have your hand raised. Please go ahead. Ally, I think you're muted.
Sorry. I was just going to put as a aside as well. The last time the board reviewed this, they were adding a lot of fill, as Art said, and we sent a negative recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals. The building commissioner did contact the applicant, who I believe was on, but he's no longer on. It was Chris Dietrich, but I think he got off. And they've actually removed the fill proposal for this. But I'm not sure about two driveways though, Bob, but let me blow it up to see.
Ally, I looked, and there was one coming off of the other road. This is off of Stage Island Road, and then there was another one that came off of, I call it the old girls' camp there, Camp Avalon.
Yeah, that was a property next to this one, Bob.
All right.
Not this
Yeah,
one.
So this is the only driveway we're talking about, is the one that comes off Strong Island Road, comes
Yeah.
into the building, and then off of the back, there's nothing.
I
I
think
believe
you're,
that- Oh, go ahead, Ally.
oh no, I was just gonna say, Bob, I think your multiple packets are getting you a little messed up. I think that was the last meeting, the one that we reviewed.
Yes, and that
Okay.
one did have a second driveway, and that was a point that came up because the bylaw clearly says where there is no alternative means of access. And that was one of the points the board was concerned about, that there was an alternative means of access, but that was a different property.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah, that's all right.
I tell you, to me, the plan was very unclear in a
Yeah.
lot of aspects. So I apologize for that. And I apologize for not being at that meeting, but you know
Yeah.
how it is. So, all right. So we can continue on if you'd like. I understand what we're trying to do now. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bob. No need for apologies. These plans for these driveways typically are very difficult to decipher, and it does make it difficult to see what's going on. Arthur does have his hand raised. Do you want to make a comment?
Yes, if the board is willing to consider it, the couple of things that we do and look at on these is, have they increased or decreased the amount of driveway area? In this case, they've decreased it. And have they filled or not filled? In this case, they brought it back down a grade, so it's not a fill. Therefore, I propose we make a positive recommendation to the zoning board of appeals for this property.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor, but I will ask if other board members have comments or questions on this proposal. Bob Wertschafter?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what all the stripe lines on the, I guess that would be the east side are, that are in one plan, but not the other. There's some other elements like a deck and other things, which I guess we are not commenting on. But, I mean,
Yeah,
there's a lot of other excavation and work on this property. If all we're talking about is that driveway, I would agree that it's a better solution than the one that's there now. But it's really hard to know if there aren't other impacts in the conservation area that need our attention.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. This is Catherine, and I'll ask Ally to chime in if necessary, but I think the other impacts that may be there will come under the purview of the Zoning Board of Appeals review. It does not come under Planning Board purview. Our determination is just about the driveway. I think that's, we're limited to that. Warren, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, Madam Chairman, you may have addressed the question, but, you know, without the applicant being present to respond to questions, as I've looked at this, I was going to be asking about the proposed patio as to whether it's pervious, impervious,
Right.
storm off the building. You know, you're putting in a pool right in the middle of the conservation area. That's just going to be creating a good bit of fill that's going to have to be carted away, or perhaps, you know, I just have questions like that. But if that's not our purview, then I have no comments.
This is Catherine again. I'll bring up a couple of points. What we've done in the past in situations like that is we can make comments to the Zoning Board of Appeals as we see fit. So we can comment that we are concerned about other impacts of other aspects of the site. And we can mention, you know, the deck and the pool and things like that, but we can't officially make a recommendation about them. Officially, our recommendation is restricted to consideration of the driveway. And I'm just going to ask, and I think we've done that in the past. We have sometimes included some additional comments that we had concerns about. So we could include those comments if the board so chooses.
And again, without the applicant being present to answer questions and clarify things, it's hard to determine whether I've got questions or not, or issues. But again, as for the driveway, if that's all that we're going to talk about, what's proposed is better than what's there. So,
thank you. And we do still have a motion on the floor, but I would like to ask the board. It does mention that the existing driveway is paved, and so the proposed driveway, which is a reduction in area, will also be paved. But would we like to ask that that be not paved? As long as they're changing things for the better, why not change it to a pervious surface? So
Bob Dubus here.
yes,
I think that a paved driveway is better in this circumstance. They're
Okay.
lessening the pavement, but it is on it's on the road side and not the water view side. And since they have neatened it up, reduced it, I would give them the paved driveway for maintenance purposes. I think it would be a wiser idea than an impervious driveway that they might have to chemical and maintain more than they should in this instance.
all right, great, thank you. So we do have a motion on the floor to give a positive recommendation for this proposal to the Zoning Board of Appeals, with adding our standard sentence that we want to ensure that the proposed Reconstruction of this driveway allows for the unobstructed flow of water.
This Bob Dubus will second that.
All right, so now we have the motion seconded. So Warren, your hand is still raised, or can we go to the roll call vote?
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Bob Wertschafter's hand is raised.
Yeah, I'm still, I mean, is the house and the pool in the Conservancy District? I mean, isn't there a need for this, this house to be raised? When that house gets raised, is the garage going to be at the bottom? I mean, I guess that's in, I wish that people were here to answer some of these questions.
If the board feels there's too many questions, we could continue the matter till a representative is available to answer more of our questions. Art, you have your hand raised?
Yes. Again, I just have a recollection from the last one. And if Ally will go to the proposed and blow that up, this entire site is in the flood zone, which is at elevation 11.0. Again, I just remember that from the previous one. I believe their finished floor grade for the structure was above that. Yeah, it was at elevation 13. All right. What we asked them to do was to lower the level of the garage, which didn't need to be up at that elevation, and that way they didn't have to raise the grade of the driveway. That's what they've done. They have an internal way to get from the slab elevation of the garage to the inside of the house, and that's all done by, I'm assuming, stairs or some other way. So the differential there is about 4 feet between, or 3.5 feet between the garage elevation and the finished floor grade. So they are above the 100-year flood elevation for the finished floor in the building, which I'm assuming that would be part of the building code requirements that they'd have to do.
Right.
So this, from my perspective, I'm still okay with what they're proposing here as far as the garage elevation, the driveway elevation, and everything else. And
Bob Wertschafter, does that answer your question, or do you still think you have too many questions to go ahead?
So this is an existing house or a new house that's being built in the Conservancy area? I mean,
Let me see.
I thought that this was a replacement house for what's there.
A new,
When
it
I went
says
to,
a new dwelling, yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, when I went there, the existing dwelling was still there, and it appeared like they were going to replace it completely. The footprint it appears to be almost identical from what I recall of what was there.
okay.
Bob
does
Dubus
say-
here. If you look on the plan, you can see the elevations of the first floor, finished foundation, first floor, 14.2, 13, existing garage, 9.5. So they've done exactly what you said, raise the house and lower the garage.
Okay. In that
Okay.
case, I'm ready to vote.
Okay, great. So we have a motion on the floor and a second to send a positive recommendation regarding the driveway.
And
In
just
Conservancy.
the driveway.
And just the driveway to the Zoning Board of Appeals regarding 146 Strong Island Road. So Art Spru, how do you vote?
Art Spru approve.
And Warren Chain?
Warren Chain, I approve, but only
And
the
Bob-
driveway.
Right, only the driveway. And we can note that in the recommendation that we send. And Bob Wertschafter?
I approve just the driveway.
All right, and Bob Dubus?
I approve.
All right, and this is Catherine Halpern. We'll send a positive recommendation regarding 146 Strong Island Road to the Zoning Board of Appeals, but we will add that our positive recommendation pertains only to the driveway. And that also we add that standard phrase that it also needs to be constructed to ensure the unobstructed flow of water. All right, thank you. So I think that was the last item on our agenda. If there are no comments from the board on any matter, And I'll also ask if there are any comments from the public before we close. So there being none, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Bob Dubus moves to adjourn.
So good to have you back, Bob.
Yeah, I know. It's been a long time since I could say that, believe me.
And was
Well,
that a
we've been
second
here
from Bob
before.
Wirtschafter?
I'll second that.
Okay, so let's do our roll call vote. Art Spru
Art Spur approve.
and Warren Chain.
This is Warren Chain. I approve, and thank you, Bob, for being back and shortening the meetings.
Yes. And Bob Wirtschafter
I approve.
and Bob Dubus.
Bob Dubus approves in fine colors.
Okay, and this is Catherine Halpern. I also approve that we adjourn the meeting. Let's note the time as 6:26 in the evening. And thanks everyone for participating and enjoy the rest of the evening. And we'll see you at our next meeting.